Welcome back, everyone, and today we're doing another Game Boy Color Hidden Gems video. The last video got a good reception, so I was excited to put another one together for you guys. So let's get right into it. So now we have Sabrinia Spooked. I actually put both Sabrinia games in here, and if you guys are laughing at me, don't laugh because these games are solid. I mean, seriously, these are way forward titles, and they did an outstanding job on these. This is the reason I picked them up. When I found out Way Forward did these games, you know, it was almost like, you know what, dude, like I gotta try it out, and I wasn't disappointed. Now, it is simplistic, you know, from what I played. You know, this seems very, very basic, but at the same time, it's just some reason you keep wanting to play it. Like you want to finish the level and see what happens next or something cool. And it's not bad on the eyes or anything. The first game that I'm showing you guys, Spooked, plays pretty simple. You collect the diamonds and the stars. And once you get enough diamonds, you can leave the level. And it's just pretty simple like that. And also the cat will come and help you as well if you need to. Now, Sabrinia Zapped, which is the one I like more, is that you're in some kind of school and you're fighting against enemies, so you have to kind of like hop on the enemies, and while they're dizzy, you kind of zap them, and they turn back into the kids in the school. So you're out pretty much rescuing the kids in the school that were changed into animals, I guess, or pretty much what I know of it. I kind of actually like skipped some of the story. So, but you can also use the cat in this one to help you out, and he goes around and kind of unlocks stuff for you or just gets items for you that you might need. So if you see the Sabrinia game, check it out. All right, so here we have Metal Gear Solid, also known as Metal Gear Solid Ghost Babel. Now, people might be asking, hey, Reggie, you know, like Metal Gear Solid is not a hidden gem. Well, the Game Boy Color version is, because you never hear people talking about this game. This is probably one of the better Metal Gear Solid games out there. I mean, seriously, this game is on point. Story mode, boss battles, they just really did this game a service. So basically, this game, if I remember correctly, it's a spinoff of the second, it's a sequel to the first or second original Metal Gear games. I can't remember which one. But basically, this one replaces Metal Gear Solid that we know on the PlayStation. Like, it's like an alternate like path or alternate reality kind of. But nobody cares about that. This is an awesome game. So basically, you have to sneak around, do your thing. And I mean, for a Game Boy Color game, I mean, they really did an outstanding job. I mean, they really captured the Metal Gear Solid feel. I mean, I know this game pretty much follows Metal Gear Solid 2. Well, Metal Gear 2, excuse me, on the MX, whatever that system's called on Nintendo, the disc system, I can't remember. Sorry. But basically, you'll be sneaking around trying to find out what's going on. You have Colonel Campbell back in your corner and a couple of new people in there as well. I remember playing this game back in AIT training back in the Army, and it was just a lot of fun, a great experience playing this game. This is traditional Metal Gear Solid game, how it's supposed to be. Now, you would think it'd be weird with two buttons to control, but the game controls well. I mean, they make everything work, and it works really well. So now we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics in the Metal Gear Solid game, and that is the bosses. Black Chamber. These guys are pretty badass. They are a Delta Force, like a defunct Delta Force unit. And you're gonna go out. These are the guys that are after you. First is Slasher Hawk, Marionette Owl, which is one of my favorite ones. You'll go against Pyro Bison and Black Arts Viper, which is their leader. Boss battles are pretty clever in this game as well, so you have to use your thinking cap, you know, thermal goggles, night vision on some bosses. Really cool stuff, you know. This Metal Gear game doesn't let down. Definitely one you want to have in your library or at least play once, because seriously, this game doesn't get enough recognition. Probably my third favorite Metal Gear Solid game out of the series. Street Fighter Alpha on the Game Boy Color is something I thought that could never possibly happen, but it has. This is a 2-button fighting game based off of the 6-button fighting game in the arcade. The game plays surprisingly well. I mean, it's crazy. Special moves are there, super moves are there as well, and some combos are actually still there. I was pretty shocked, to be honest. The game plays universal like any other fighting game. Like, you have your special moves, you could do circular motions, or well, it might be hard on the kind of hard on the freaking Game Boy pad, but still, if you could pull it off, you could pull off some really cool special moves. A lot of the animations are still there from the arcade, which is still like kind of shocking to me. I'm like, man, whoever developed this game, man, they really pulled it off, man. They did a really good job on this. Now, I have to be honest, Street Fighter Alpha, the first game, is not really my favorite out of the Alpha series. I'm more of an Alpha 3 guy, so it would have been cool to see them pull it off on here, but hey, we got that on the Game Boy Advance, so that'll be another video. But anyways, like I said, this game is solid, definitely worth picking up if you see it. And plus, it has all the characters in it, you know, like all the no characters are missing, so that's always good too. Good old Magical Chase on the Game Boy Color. Now, this is a shoot 'em up. They actually came out on the TurboGrafx system. Very sought after game for that system, one of the more rare games. One of my friends, John Hancock, he actually got it, a complete copy, around, I think it was around a year ago, so he's real happy. And another one of my friends, Andy from Super Smash, got himself a copy as well. So I said, you know what? It's time for me to grab a copy of the game. So I picked up the Game Boy Color version because it was a lot cheaper, but it still plays the same like the Turbo version, which is cool. What I really like about the game too is that you can actually buy upgrades in the shop. Now this game is in Japanese, so it's kind of hard to understand what you're buying, but you can look at the icons and tell, you know, certain things, like there's certain like speed, three-way shot, things like that, life, you know, you could understand it, but some people, it might throw them off just a bit, but it's not hard at all. There is a fan translation that was made around a year ago, so you can actually buy that, and it's a lot cheaper than buying the Japanese version. I think the just a cart only will probably go for like maybe 15 to 20 bucks. But as it stands, this is actually a really faithful port to the TurboGrafx version. The only things I saw that were like downgraded is probably some colors and things like that, the music a little bit, but it's really on par with that version. So I'm definitely not gonna go out and get the turbo version. I'm happy with this version right here. But I really do feel this game is a gem to have on the Game Boy Color, seriously. Sad it was not officially released in America, but I guess I could understand why, as with the turbo version did not sell well at all. And we know typically when games don't sell well, you know, and they don't make that many copies of them out there, so then sometimes later on they become rare, and that's pretty much what happened with the turbo version. So in closing about this game, guys, Magical Chase for the Game Boy Color, a true hidden gem. I like it a lot. Definitely something to pick up if you can afford it, or if not, you could get the reproduction version and enjoy that one in English. So nothing much else to say about this game. If you like Magical Chase and you're looking for a copy, this might be the version to get. So here we have an RPG. Lufia: The Legend Returns. This is actually the third game in the Lufia series, and Lufia always, to me, seemed underrated. It's never the RPG that people bring up, you know. It's kind of strange, you know. It's like I said, it's totally underrated, but a fantastic series. I've actually played the first two games, and this one, when I played it, I was like, wow, this is actually kind of cool. I didn't really think of it much of it, even though it's being the third game, being on the Game Boy Color. You know, I wasn't really expecting much, but I was pretty surprised with it. The story starts out strong in the beginning. You arrive on a continent and you go to this village, and all of a sudden, like an incident happens where a fire, like one of the houses burns down. You have to go inside and rescue, I believe it's one of the villagers, a daughter or son. So what's interesting about this game, here's how the battle system works. You actually can have 9 characters in your party, but the front line are the characters that matter. If the front line gets killed, then it's game over. But surprisingly, or not surprisingly, this game actually has really good music. The music is pretty on point. I was actually like, wow, like amazed with it. You know, you don't really think that the Game Boy Color could do much with music, but you're totally wrong if you think that. Seriously, whoever did the music for this game did a great job. So I'm only a few hours into the game, and thank goodness this game is not a grind fest. You don't have to level up all crazy in this game, or it doesn't just take a long time to level up. Now, even though this is the third game in the Lufia series, you don't need to play the first two to enjoy this one. You can enjoy this one just the same. So just from where I started in this game and where I'm at right now, I could really tell the developers really put some heart into the story. It's just not some generic story they just put together to kind of like make a cash grab. They actually did some character development, and the story is just really interesting. From what I read too, guys, the game takes around 28 hours to complete, and maybe a little bit more, around 31 hours if you want to get everything, doing all the side quests. Honestly, I think around 10. Maybe I'm pushing. Okay, I say 20 hours at the most for a portable RPG like this from back in the day. But you know, they added a lot of stuff to this game, so I guess it's fine that it's 30 hours. Honestly think it's worth it. Megaman Xtreme. We're going to actually talk about both Megaman Xtreme games, but of course we're going to start with the first one. The first one actually takes place, I believe, a couple years after Mega Man X2 for the Super Nintendo. Now, I'm going to be completely honest about this game. Though I like the game a lot, it's pretty much, I would say, a remake of the first Mega Man X game. With, of course, the story will tell you why you're kind of going through the same events as the first game. As you can see here, the game has its own dedicated story, and actually everything plays out nice. What I like about these side type games is that it kind of fleshes out the character development in the Mega Man X series. I've always been a big Mega Man X fan, so I always want to know as much as I can about the characters and how they get along with each other. Now, when playing this game, the first thing you have to notice this, because there's only 2 buttons on the Game Boy Color, and that's going to kind of conflict with your dash move. So in this game, how you do it is you dash by pushing forward twice really fast, or you can push down and A. It's kind of weird because I'm used to using the dash jump in the regular X game, which is pretty much you push I think it's A and B at the same time, and you do your dash jump, and it's just like a super jump pretty much. I'm used to using that, but in this game I had to get used to doing things this way, which is not a deal breaker or anything. You just got to really get used to it. Another cool feature about this game is that all the music, of course, is downgraded from the Super Nintendo version, but the mixes sound good for it. Storm Eagle was one of the stages I noticed the most, and that everybody loves Storm Eagle's theme from Mega Man X1, so you should also take a listen to this one. It's actually pretty cool. But now here we look at Mega Man Xtreme Part 2, and this one is a lot better, and it definitely doesn't feel like a rehash of the first game. There's only one gripe that I had with this game, even though it's better than the first game, is that you get to play as X or Zero, and they both fight different robot masters, but to truly beat the game, you have to play Extreme Mode, which you unlock by actually beating the game with X and Zero in their own separate games. I thought that was kind of weird because they only fight 4 robot masters each, and then of course a later boss. But despite all that, Mega Man Xtreme Part 2 is a whole lot of fun, twice as much as the first game, and it really just kind of bridges the gap with a lot of the story from before, like after X3 to X4. So if you guys remember Iris from X4, she's actually in this game, and there's a lot more character development between her and Zero. Now let's take a look at classic Bobble for the Game Boy Color. This game is a pretty cool follow-up to the regular Bobble series, but the only downfall this game has is, can you imagine playing Bobble just one player? Yeah, what I mean by that is if you remember playing Bobble back in the day, if you beat the game by yourself, there was no way you could beat the game because you needed 2 players to actually beat the game. So now they're giving us a Bobble that we can actually play and beat the game with as one player, which is kind of like, I feel like it's kind of too late for that, but I still remember the issue that I had with the first game, how I was kind of annoyed that you couldn't beat the game with one player, especially when you go through almost all 99 levels. All right, I got that gripe out of the way. This turns out to be a very fun game. It's actually kind of cool. I like how the levels scroll, because if you play the original Bobble games, it's just one screen that you're on that you see everything on. So this one's kind of like more of a Bobble adventure. The game has a little bit of story. Basically, Bub is trying to find a cure for Bob because he's actually sick. So that's the reason the game's not 2 players, because he's sick and he's out. So you have to kind of go out and try to find some medicine for him, I believe. At least that's what I think. I can't remember. It's a simplistic story, of course. So it's something similar to that level, but a solid game that you guys will enjoy. And now we have our final game, and this is the game I've been waiting to tell you guys about. Hands of Time. Think of Commando mixed with a little bit of Back to the Future. I know it sounds pretty insane, right? Well, this is what pretty much happens. So you play as Sebastian. He's a soldier and a son of a scientist, and he has to go back into the past to actually change history, because what happens is there's a time machine that's made, and because of this machine, one country has a lot of power over the other one. So they're trying to go back and change that to stop a certain war from happening. Right before you go back in time, though, your father is taken prisoner. So you have to find a way to save history and save your father. So good thing about this game is you have a health bar, so you can take more than one hit, which is great. You know, I don't like games that you get shot once and it's over. You know, I like for you to have like a power bar, but you get upgrades and weapons too, so you have better weapons to use during the levels. Well, not levels, but I would say it's more of a big area map, so that you kind of like unlock as you go on. The game is actually really big on story, so there's a lot of cutscenes. But and I'm gonna go ahead and say this about the game: the way the dialogue is written kind of makes it hard to read. I mean, I don't know what it is, the fonts or the lettering. It just makes it real awkward to kind of read everything properly sometimes. But it's a solid game you guys should try out. Hey guys, well, I hope you enjoyed this video. This video took a long time to do because actually the original video got erased, and I was pretty disappointed, and it took me a while to get back into the groove. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Actually, I have one more surprise for you guys before we go. Check this out. Dragon's Lair for the Game Boy Color. I threw this in just for the hell of it. I had just gotten this game right around the time I was ending this video, and I decided to include it. I think this game is a hidden gem because, of course, it's uncommon, but man, seriously, this game deserves to be on this list because look at what this shows what the Game Boy Color could do. This is pretty amazing for the system. I mean, seriously, I don't know how powerful the Game Boy Color is, but I know it's probably maybe around the level of the NES, or maybe above, or maybe below. I don't know. But seriously, I mean, it shows what this system can do. I mean, this is almost damn near close to the arcade. Well, I shouldn't say close to the arcade, but you know, it does a good job. Now, the gameplay is similar to the arcade, but it's slightly easier, slightly more difficult. Now, usually when you get to a room, you only have to do one command, correct command, to get out of that room instead of like a couple commands like in the regular arcade version. But in this version, if you mess up, they put you in a randomly different room afterwards, so you don't get to repeat the same room over and over again to learn the pattern. So they kind of switches things up. So still very entertaining. I remember beating the Sega CD version of this game back in the day. I love this game still. I was actually lucky to find an in-box copy of this game for the system, so happy about that and very impressed at the same time. This game doesn't play that well, even though it kind of does, kind of doesn't. I mean, the original never really played well. I mean, how are you supposed to know what to attack and where to go sometimes? You just have to use what you think is common sense in this game. You know, some things flash or whatever is obvious on screen. But a solid game that I think you guys should check out. Radical Reggie, and I'm out.